What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Classic dropping a car vlog. I hope you guys and gals are having a wonderful day. Nobody tells you today. Remember that God loves you, Christ loves you, and I love you as well. That cold vortex is among us in the Midwest. And I know in Texas they're getting it worse, but good Lord, it's cold outside. Make sure you subscribe to the Take It Home podcast where I talk about professional wrestling topics and I put up my matches as Classic Alpha, professional wrestler of 13 years. The good Lord said it'll be 14 in March. I'm excited for this journey of wrestling. I'm thankful for the gift that God has given me and don't want to waste it at all. Make sure you also look at the matches as Classic Alpha on the Take It Home podcast in the playlist. Look at all my matches from throughout the years. You know, I haven't wrestled yet this year, but I will be in February. Actually wrestling twice in February. Speaking of wrestling, make sure you also subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That is me and my wife's professional wrestling company. We're celebrating 7 years this year as of the 19th of this month. And we are continuing to press forward. Get your tickets for Big Business. This is February 21st. Dyer, Indiana, Harold's private venue. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. They're available now. Tickets are $5 off on Eventbrite, but they'll be normal price, which is $5 more at the door. Bars. I wanted to talk about one thing, but it's going to switch to another caveat of wrestlers taking breaks. So yesterday, a lot of people saw that Trey Miguel, he re-signed with TNA. And he was a part of the Feast of Fire match, and he has a briefcase. Now, if you're not familiar with TNA's Feast of Fire, they do a thing where people get these briefcases. It's like, I believe it's like 4. Sometimes people get a title opportunity. Sometimes people get a tag. Sometimes people get an X Division. But then one of them is fired, like you're fired. As soon as you open up the case, you're fired. I don't like that fire thing. I understand the suspense, but I don't like, making people being fired into a storyline with a briefcase. Now, I know there's creative ways that people can do it, of course, but it is what it is. They've had crazy stuff. I remember the Knockouts had a Feast of Fire, and it was like one of them opened it, and it was Tara, who was Victoria in WWE. Her spider, one lady opened up a briefcase, and she wound up winning the women's championship. Like the women's championship was won because somebody grabbed the briefcase with the championship in it. Like, I've seen stuff, and it has so much promise, and I get it, but still, Trey Miguel won one. Now, Trey Miguel's name is still popping up on a lot of people because he was just signed to AEW, and he was also released in AEW with the quickness because the Rascals were signed, all 4 of them. Now it's just 3 of them, and he was released because of comments that he made years ago. Now, him resigning to TNA, hey man, need the money, the bag, or whatever like that. They come in with open arms. By me, not even mad about resigning and stuff like that. You want to wrestle, you want to be on TV, the AMC deal. I know that they got to work out a few kinks with certain things to make the product better, and I do hope the best for TNA and Trey Miguel. Most of the problem comes from these wrestlers who say they're taking breaks. Now, you can do what you want. Let me say this before I say anything else. You can do what you want. You're grown. You make your own decisions and stuff like that. But, you ain't got to front. If you want to take a break, cool, take a break. But if you're just saying that for sympathy, so fans and places can book you for matches, that's where I draw the line, honestly. It's a hustle out there, right? In wrestling, it's a hustle. A lot of us are trying to make money. A lot of us are trying to get bookings and stuff like that. But when you play about taking breaks and mental breaks and all of this stuff, and then show up somewhere else a few days later, it's just like, oh, okay, I see what it was. You were just playing the system. You were just playing the system because you wanted to see if you can get some more money. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with getting money and stuff like that. But still, a lot of people do take people's mental breaks and stuff like that very, very seriously. And sometimes they will feel sympathy and let alone empathy and try to buy merch, or they'll try to promote some of the stuff, or they'll try to have you here for certain things. But like I said, when you just try to hustle people, it just becomes too obvious. Like I said, people can change their mind too. This is like more of a think piece than to try to persuade you guys. This is more of a think piece. Sometimes you don't want to wrestle, and then the next day you be like, yeah, you know what, I'll wrestle. But sometimes, like when you make a post like Trey did about, hey, I'm taking a break, don't tag me or nothing, and don't send me nothing, and then a few days later you somewhere that's tagging you somewhere and then posting you, then that's the crazy part about the situation. You know, a lot of people make fun of wrestlers who do take breaks, who have taken a break, or it might not have been a long break. You know, a lot of people are talking about even Elena Black. They're saying, okay, well, she said she took a break from mental health and she wasn't making a lot of money as much as she does on OF, and now she's back wrestling, so she probably didn't make a lot of OF money. I don't know. I'm not in these people's bank accounts. But a lot of people do that route. They'll do that route. They'll be like, they'll talk about wrestling. They'll say wrestling has done bad to them. And I'm not here to say they lying, because I'm not in the locker rooms that they in. But at the same time, they'll say so much bad stuff about wrestling. I'm done with wrestling. I don't want to do it. But as soon as somebody give you money, oh, well, yeah, I'm wrestling now. Oh, I'm here. I'm back. Oh, this and that, this and that. You know, a lot of people love that AJ Lee came back, but then some people still remember that she said she didn't want to do it because of mental health and all of this other stuff. And now she's saying she's working hard for it. And like I said, people deal with life differently, right? And I get it. But at the same time, sometimes people have treated wrestling bad. They have treated the fans bad and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just not it's not even holding yourself accountable. It's just you're going to go into a spat because mental health is very relatable to a lot of people and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes people just got to get up and they got to work. You know, peace from Toronto. What's going on? What's going on? Back again. Good hearing from you. Good hearing from you. God bless. So still, it's a hustle. I've seen wrestlers who said they got hurt and went to GoFundMe and they had insurance and stuff like that, and they just didn't want to pay it, so they went to a GoFundMe and stuff. Like I wouldn't do this kind of stuff. When I hurt myself, I had to pay for it through my insurance and stuff like that. I'm not trying to do this and play with people's money and stuff like that. And I'm also not trying to play with people's feelings and stuff. Now, I don't know Trey Miguel like that. I don't know him at all, actually. I don't know if he's having any mental into anything. He said he's taking a break, but this was a quick break. He took a spring break. It wasn't even a spring break. It was less than that. He took 2 days off and he back in TNA. And like I said, I do wish him the best. But God, dog, you just said you was taking the break. Maybe he did feel like he burned the bridge with TNA. And that's probably what it was, because one of the guys was booked to wrestle for TNA, but when TNA found out they were signed by AEW, they pulled the match. I don't know which one it was. But still, maybe he felt like he burned the bridge. I was like, hey, you know what? They're not going to book me, so I need to take a break. And maybe they called him and said, hey, you know what? You know, I mean, he don't have to give an explanation at all. But, you know, and I'm not saying like just him per se, but there are a lot of wrestlers that go that route. Even in WWE, I've said it before, it's always been like a continued cycle. Somebody leaves WWE, they say they take a break, they're done with wrestling, and then within a few months, they're booked for somewhere to wrestle, or they're booked for this and that. And then they get on there, especially if it's AEW, they get on there, they talk bad about the company that they're at. And it was to the point that people were just getting sick of it. They was like, hey man, we wanted you to basically elevate. And obviously WWE wasn't going to elevate you the way we wanted to. So why don't you tell us about, you know, what you've been doing? Oh, well, let me talk about the company that used to employ me. Like, to me, it became a running gag for AEW, let alone MJF, because he kept doing that. So to me, this would be the time to tell people, hey, I'm different, I'm changed, it's time to do something or whatever like that. And Trey Miguel is very, very talented. The Rascals are very, very talented. But I do know that a lot of people go that route. Now, I'm not going to say that Trey Miguel is doing it per se. I am saying that it is kind of weird. You just wanted a break and he just took a few days. But it is what it is. You know, I do wish you the best. You know, in our group chat, a lot of people was laughing because people was like, man, this dude just lied. And he kind of did, you know, like I said, mental health, some people cry wolf when it goes to it. You know, they'll cry wolf with the situation. You know, some people are some bad people, right? They don't have no goodness in their heart. They live unrighteous and stuff like that. And when people call them out, oh, well, mental health, or I was a victim and stuff like that. And I'm always like, hey, man, I do hope you get out of that victimhood, and I do hope you escape the stuff that holds you like that. But at the same time, you still have to hold yourself accountable at the end of the day. There's a lot of wrestlers that come out that they're very bad people, and all of a sudden mental health, and I was in a dark space and stuff like that, but you've never, like, cleared the air about the situation. You've never done this kind of stuff. You know, a lot of people, as me as a person that goes to church, oh, well, y'all hide behind church and y'all do this and that to justify. I'm like, well, let's talk about everything else that do that. You know, it's unfortunate that bad things happen to people, even if it happens to bad people, because sometimes that turns them into it. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people want that sympathy. And that's what happens when people say they taking a break from wrestling and all of this other stuff. But then as soon as a company come in and get them a lot of money, that break goes off. That break turns into a weekend or a few days or whatever like that. So that'd be my thing. And I've said all the time, like, oh man, this person taking a break. I do wish him the best, but dang. You know, I do think he probably thought that TNA wasn't going to. This is what I think most of it is he just didn't think that TNA was going to sign. I thinking he's doing the mental break tour like everybody, like other people do? No, I don't think he was technically doing it for, hey, help me with bookings and stuff like that. Because I'm sure people did go into his inbox anyway, or DMs, and still try to offer him a booking and stuff. But I do think that most likely he didn't think that TNA was going to be signing, so he was going to re-sign him. So he probably was like, hey, I'm going to just chill and figure out what I want to do with my life, because you don't know. Financial statuses change, and you may have to move. You have to move back in with somebody. You may have to relocate. You may have to do your own thing. Like, sometimes that is a big thing. So I see both sides in the situation. I do see both sides. But when wrestlers do say they are taking a break, first of all, a break, it's not an average time of a break. Some people can take a break for 2 days. Some can take it for 2 months, 8 months, 2 years, 2 seconds. You know what I'm saying? It can. But like I said, as a wrestler and as somebody who sees people that be trying to get over on the wrestling community and the fans and stuff like that, I do side-eye it. Not saying I'm side-eyeing it for Trey or whatever like that, because honestly, he didn't have, I didn't see any other bookings and stuff like that besides him just resigning. So like I said, I do think it's more of a thing, but I do think that this was a great point, a great think piece to even speak about, because it is crazy. You'd be surprised. Like, you can look at lists. People have made lists of wrestlers who said they taking a break, but then they come back to wrestling within a few days after announcing it and stuff like that. And like I said, if you do have to take care of your mental health and go to therapy or go to church and seek God, by all means, do that. But don't be playing in these people's face like that, man. Just don't be playing in these people's face. Don't use it as a hustle and as a business, unless you're trying to help other people overcome those kind of issues and stuff like that, right? That's my only thing. And like I said, and I'm going to say this again before I leave, I don't think Trey was doing that per se. I just think it does sound a little bit crazy that you was about to take a break or whatever like that. And you also saying, like, you made some mistakes in the past and you still a man of faith, which I'm glad and happy that you still are and stuff like that, and, trying to move on. But still, I met Trey Miguel in the past many times. I've seen a lot of pictures of him with other people. Like I said, I have nothing really negative to say about the Rascals. I'm not a big uber fan of like how they wrestle and stuff, because I think a lot of the independent wrestlers wrestle like them. But I've never really heard any negative thing about any other guys. I know that there was some controversy with certain things and people owned up to it, but still, I've never really heard anything like just too crazy or egregious. I've always heard good things. I know friends who've wrestled with them, friends who've done certain things, and then I've also heard stuff that, they wasn't, I don't want to go into it, but still, I did want to speak about it for a little bit. So, hopefully this is what Trey wants and what TNA wants, and it works for Trey. If you are a wrestler that do want to take a break, by all means, you can do what you want, first of all. You're a grown man or a grown woman. You can decide if you want to play people or not. You can decide what you want to do in life and stuff like that. But, don't be playing with people's pockets and emotions who support you and you do stuff like this. And like I said, not saying Trey per se, bars, because like I said, he ain't really do much. So their style is not what I like in wrestling. I don't like much of it neither. Like, a lot of people say flippy stuff and all that and indie-rific, and honestly, that's how I describe it sometimes. I describe it the same way, because usually a lot of the smaller wrestlers are doing it because companies like WWE or even like NWA or old companies, they don't like that style. They'll say, hey, do this with the luchas and the cruiserweights. But now with independent wrestling, a lot of people made money and bank off of that, and that's what happens. And it goes to even AEW. When you look at AEW doesn't book big men like 270 pounds and up as champions, except Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is a 2-time champion, but he was a transitional champion when he transitioned the belt to Swerve, and also when he when he went to MJF, because they didn't want MJF to beat Hangman Page at the time. So they had Samoa Joe had it for not even for a long time, only for him to lose it to MJF so he could take the pin, because they didn't want MJF to pin Swerve and page because they want them to have a feud down the line. You know what I'm saying? So still, they never really put guys because they have that indie mindset. They want to show that guys under 270 pounds can be world champions and wrestle and stuff like that. And honestly, it hurts the wrestlers who are super heavyweights. Will Hobbs, Wardlow, Lance Archer, other wrestlers that are very, very talented, very, very strong, agile, can actually cut a promo on the microphone. Big Bill, look what they do on the Big Bill. This guy's like has one of the best physiques in wrestling in AEW, and look at what they're doing with him. Nothing against Brian Keith, but still, that just shows you the indie mindset is, okay, this is the new wave of wrestling, and honestly, it's become the old wave. And a lot of people are not rocking with it like that. A lot of people are like, they'll watch it, they'll still buy tickets and stuff, but some people want to see something different. And honestly, that's what C3 Ultimate Wrestling is for. It's something very, very different. So still, I did want to speak about that for a little bit. What do you guys think about it? Let me know. I hope you guys and gals have a great day. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.